Race number 2 at the Pirelli Spanish round gets underway. Good start from Loris Baz. He will attempt to make up ground from the second row of the grid. Looks to the outside into turn 1, can't get there. Chaz Davies with a decent run. It's side by side as well for second position. Some bumping and boring in the pack as Marco Melandri attempts to find his way through. It's Ray from Reading. Davies has made a good start. He's going all the way around the outside here of Loris Baz to try and make the manoeuvre for third position. Couldn't quite get there, and he's vulnerable to attack from Toprak Razgatlioglu, who's already up into 5th position from 10th on the grid. So unperturbed by his crash in the run towards the grid, Razgatlioglu has made a stunning getaway. And what about Alex Lowe's as well, sending it down the inside of his former teammate Michael van der Mark and through for 6th position. Down towards turn number 6 then. Ray it is who leads from Reading. Chaz Davies is under pressure from behind from Toprak Razgatlioglu. Lowe's defends against van der Mark, and the status quo is maintained for the moment at least.
Yeah, and you can see at the front of the field, Jonathan Ray once again able to make a great start off the line, and he's left with absolutely no challenge on the run down in towards turn 1, but he's certainly going to face a challenge now from Scott Redding. He's up there in second spot. He'll also feel that he's got Loris Baz behind him as a little bit of a rear gunner. So for Scott Redding, all he's going to do is focus on the number 1 Kawasaki, Jonathan Ray.
Chaz Davies will be eager to get through quickly on Loris Baz here to ensure that he can stay with Ray and Redding at the front, although we know that Loris Baz has had the pace to go with the front runners. He hasn't quite had the longevity on the evidence of what we saw in race number 1. Ray, Redding, Baz, Davies, Razgatlioglu, Lowe's with a great start, van der Mark with a stinker, Haslam, Gerloff and Laverty rounding out your top 10 as Razgatlioglu dives for the inside of Chaz Davies going into turn number 13. Strong manoeuvre there from the Turkish rider to come up into 4th position. Can Davies now repay the compliment? Redding challenging down the inside of Ray into turn number 1. That move really came from nowhere. Razgatlioglu making stunning progress, it must be said, forcing his way through, and Redding has done the same at the head of the field. Brilliant action on lap number 2.
Yeah, Toprak picking up 7 spaces from 10th on the grid, doing a really good job here in the opening lap. Chaz Davies doing a good job too, though, to be able to hold on to those kind of positions. Let's see if he's able to attack on Toprak.
Problems for Eugene Laverty, who ran off onto the gravel trap, who was sitting just on the fringes of the top 10. So miserable weekend for Eugene Laverty, and the BMW outfit continues. Tom Sykes has dropped 7 places off the line. He's already down to 13th position as we see Alex Lowe's making his manoeuvre here on Loris Baz. So Baz is starting to go backwards now. He drops down to 6th position. Redding, Ray, Razgatlioglu, Davies, and then it's Alex Lowe's.
Yeah, mirror signal manoeuvre there for Alex Lowe's down the straight, and he's been able to make a good start from the 3rd row of the grid to run inside the top 5. But let's see what Jonathan Ray is able to do here against Scott Redding. In the opening couple of sectors, Redding was able to stretch out another few tenths of a second. We know that he had the pace in yesterday's race. We know Jonathan Ray was struggling a little bit in the race yesterday, so Scott Redding trying to set the pace right from the outset.
This is what we've really wanted to see. Our top performers have all qualified up through to the front of the field based on what they did in the Superpole race earlier on today. And now it's a fair fight between this group of riders. The top 7 all going together in the early stages, separated by a second.
And this is what we were all excited about for WorldSBK in 2020. You look at that leading group of 7. There's 7 great riders. They're all on 3 different makes and manufacturers. So it really does show that there is a lot more depth in the field this year, and it gives everyone exactly what they want to see in the championship.
Michael Ruben Rinaldi further back is charging forward. He is challenging Leon Haslam into turn number 1. It'll be interesting to see if he did manage to get through. Garrett Gerloff ahead of those two, just looking over his shoulder to check on their progress. 1.3 seconds is the gap behind Michael van der Mark to Garrett Gerloff, and then Haslam, who has managed to successfully defend against Michael Ruben Rinaldi for the moment at least, sitting in 8th, 9th and 10th, those 3. So van der Mark with a bit of air behind him, but he will be keen to make an impression on the riders directly in front as well. So look at Scott Redding pulling clear out in front. Fastest lap was a 1 minute 40.545 as Chaz Davies looks to the outside on Toprak Razgatlioglu, and the Turkish rider defends for 3rd position. So Scott Redding pulling away here, 7/10 of a second gained last lap around.
Yeah, just got the tyre sheet from Pirelli as well, and most of the riders using the same kind of front and rear combinations, but interestingly 2 Kawasaki's opting for something a little bit different. Jonathan Ray's got the same compound on that rear tyre as everyone else, but the likes of Chaz Davies just have a slightly different construction on it, so it'll be interesting to see if Ray's able to use that in the closing stage of the race to give him an advantage. Alex Lowe's we see on the 22, he's got the SCX rear tyre in, so he's trying to be very aggressive at the start of the race and use that grip.
Davies up into third position ahead of Razgatlioglu. He's keen to make a bolt quickly. He cannot afford to get stuck in traffic with Scott Redding now the best part of a second clear. So Davies moves in front of Razgatlioglu, and he'll be aiming to stay there into turn number 1. The Turkish rider has been a demon on the brakes into that first turn, but it's Davies with the grunt of the Ducati who pulls clear. Redding with a bit of a moment into the first turn. It's still Ray who trails. Look to the inside line further back. Backed out of it in the end, Loris Baz on Alex Lowe's. Lowe's manages to hold that 5th position, but all of these riders jockeying for position, jostling for position, and what they cannot afford to do here is to allow Scott Redding to escape, because at the moment it looks as though it's going to be another Redding party.
Yeah, there's not a lot you can do when Redding's on that bike, and in this kind of form, he just able to use the advantages of the Ducati in these early stages. We know that that bike is one of the best on its tyres in the whole field. The reason for that is that engine's very torquey all the way through. It's very linear all the way through the revs, so you are really able to use that to smooth everything out.
Looking to the inside now, Michael van der Mark on Loris Baz. This will be a move for 6th position if he gets it done. He does indeed get it stopped in time. So Michael van der Mark recovering a place against Loris Baz. It was a miserable opening couple of laps for Michael van der Mark from 3rd on the grid down to 7th. He's now starting to recover and bounce back. He's up into 6th position.
Yeah, and you can see with Baz, once again, like what we saw in Phillip Island, he's trying to carry all the corner speed, because even though he's got a 2020 motor, hasn't had quite the same top speed as some of the riders around him this weekend.
Chaz Davies is really on a charge here. Davies looking on the tail of Jonathan Rea. He's made up half a second on this lap so far, and it could well be a matter of getting on to the start-finish straight or even into turn number 6, but it does look as though Davies has the advantage here over Jonathan Rea. It's not going to be turn 13, so can he line up a manoeuvre here and make something happen into turn 1? Rea's a little bit offline, but actually as he gets back for a late apex, he manages to cover off Chaz Davies and halt his momentum momentarily. Davies then not close enough into turn number 1. Redding, Rea and Davies for the moment at least, but it's the number 7 who looks set to move forward.
Yeah, it looks like only a matter of time for Chaz Davies until he's able to make that move on Jonathan Rea, but Rea did well to be able to recover there, because he made a small mistake through turn 13 and still able to hold on from Chaz Davies, but we've seen that Ducati just has that top speed, so Chaz Davies is probably going to try and just make the move down into towards turn 6, so that's where it becomes really important for Rea to be very fast from this point on through turn 5. Chaz Davies though riding very well, looking a lot more like his old self.
Onto the longest straight on this Angel Nieto circuit, riding on board with Jonathan Rea, looking backwards to Chaz Davies, faster over the last couple of laps than the reigning world champion, but not hot enough off turn 5 to make a manoeuvre into 6. Jonathan Rea is managing a defence of this second place for the moment, and all the while that's enabling Scott Redding to scamper clear out in front. 1.7 seconds is now the number 45's racing lead.
Yeah, and for Scott Redding, still lapping about a half a second faster than everyone else, so he's making sure to keep that pressure on. Razgatlioglu
with a stable gap to Lowe's, as down the inside goes Chaz Davies on Jonathan Rea, and that's certainly an unconventional passing place from Chaz Davies. We said it looked as though it was going to be a matter of time. He's got the move made, and Jonathan Rea is slipping perilously backwards now, with Razgatlioglu and Lowe's queuing up behind.
Yeah, twice into turn 9 that he's been able to make that move. Chaz Davies just making sure that Jonathan Rea just has no choice. You've got to just cede that position. Good riding from Davies, and Jonathan Rea, he's now needs to just make sure he's able to get his head down, focus on maintaining his pace, and focus on maintaining that 3rd position.